those who will watch the recording of the live community. I thought of talking a little bit about building resilience, since we've been looking at mindset practices, journal prompts, and wait for it, the way to use our nervous system. My mind went blank. And so that's the part of good resilience, obviously. But anybody who doesn't know resilience, what does it actually mean? I went to do a little bit of research so I could quickly share that. The ability to adapt well to adversity, trauma, or significant stress, allowing you to bounce back from life's challenges rather than being overwhelmed by them. Okay, so that's what resilience is. Now, there's good and bad resilience. I got that word, the bad resilience, from her name is Dr. Amy Pegan. And she explains, based on the nervous system, why someone who could be using mindset practices and journal prompts, she doesn't use those words, but she says somebody who can be doing any kind of practice to work on themselves won't be bringing themselves benefit. So the bad resilience is where your nervous system is still dysregulating. And as Bessel van der Kolk points out, people who dysregulate, they don't know they're dysregulating. So that's where personal responsibility, when it comes to self-regulation skills, number one, but the actual capacity to have a window welcome to your nervous system. So I'm going to use an example, my panic attacks, and then I'm also going to use one of the journal prompts from the uncertainty journal prompts. There's 15 of them. You find them on the PayHip store. Well, it's a one PDF. So uncertainty and emotional resilience, inner growth mindset journal prompts for daily practice. And next to that, I'm going to use one of our one-day mindset practices. This one's the foundational one, just to give you an idea. So for one, resilience, how to build it. It's with self-regulation skills. So that means you regulate affect charges. So when I was having panic attacks, I wasn't having anything in a way of debilitating or clinical dissociation. As a mystic, for those of you who don't know, so mystic spiritual, I channel, download, clairs, some will call them spiritual gifts, the entire physicist, quantum physicists, the community that looks at consciousness overall, they know of our clairs, so they will talk about it with the embodied brain and mind. I actually have learned of good mindful therapists and just any good therapist that also, also has the same or similar experiences. So for me, during panic attacks and one of the occasions, as I was laying down, and going through the motions, and so this is the part of why, how do you build resilience? You actively will know you're activated, but because you can self-regulate, which means I'm able to stay grounded in this body and connected to my nervous system. So there are people who will be using their mouth with the same words, but I will notice that they don't have aliveness. And this is another word that if you're not attachment trauma educated, I have that lens because I am attachment trauma educated as a mentor, content creator, podcast host, and someone who supports for personal growth and spiritual growth, being a mystic. So I live those experiences. The practice is consistent over time. Now, some find it tedious. I remember on Therapy Nutshell Lady, she's on YouTube. She's the first sciences, I call her, right? Therapists, they're all in that bundle that explained to me what a panic attack was, what part of the brain, and the left mode of the brain loves to understand. That's our logical. So when you have integrated brain, the left and the right, they love to both be together working with stuff. And so the whole self and self-regulation capacity, the panic attacks that I was having, they were during my ascension and awakening, light body, light body, light body, rainbow body. So anyone who's spiritual will know of these words and of this process, which you don't reprogram your subconscious. No, you're actively expanding. And here's where I'm going to pause myself. Otherwise, I'll change our topic. And I want to stay on how to build resilience. I chose the title on purpose to give you practical examples. But I'm a storyteller. So I tend to navigate to those. So cut out the story. What uncertainty or contrast am I working on today? That can be one of our reflection prompts as we build resilience. So during the panic attack, Therapy Nutshell Lady explained to me how it works and how it takes that 15 to 20 minutes. It's different than an anxiety attack. And I saw someone on her channel write in the little comments, so you're saying we have to put up with it? And it's like, no, that's not what you said. Well, anyone can understand your frustration. You're either going to expand your window of tolerance to want to welcome. And here's the part where I thank you. Oh, that's so kind. Thank you so much. If you do want to check out Substack, I have a newsletter. Well, it's more than a newsletter. It's a space where I'll be doing journal prompts and mindset practices and conversations like these, and also pay hip. But thank you so much. I hope to see you again. If you stick around, that'll be great. And if you don't, I understand. Time is of the essence. But as I was saying, so on Therapy Nutshell Ladies YouTube video, the comment of the person, I could understand she's irritated. I think it was she. But the technical explanation was given to you. Now, here's where Dr. Amy Pegan, this other doctor, she has the Biology of Podcast, or the Biology of Trauma podcast. I have notes here, but it's not important. So she goes through the motions of explaining neuroception, and that's to her community of therapists, someone who had written her and said, my client is refusing treatment or reacting negatively to it was, I think, just supplements. And she explains why. She's like, the body is still trying to play out the same scenario. So here's where our nervous system likes predictability. And what I'm trying to present as we begin how to build resilience. To me, for my body, it was easy. The panic attacks were the biggest pain in my butthole throughout my entire spiritual awakening. And then when I came to become attachment trauma educated with that lens, I'm like, oh, okay, I have had Kundalini awakening. And then I also know how Peter Levine explains when one trauma piece moves, the rest unravel. And in both equations, I have enlightened beings educating me, one spiritual, one scientific, which, by the way, makes me think of the phrase, God never gives you more than what you can handle, which I grew up with. And so while as a mystic, someone who integrates tarot, Akashic record readings, Reiki, I'm considered bad by those who have decided to take and keep all those books separate of our ancestors' stories, not to mention not welcome science that simply gives us a way to harness our entire, the kingdom of God is within you, Jesus' words, or the seed of enlightenment is within you, Sadhguru's words. So I bring human elements to spiritual and spirituality, and the sciences, the data, proves that we're all made basically perfect, but to get to that perfection and that wholeness, for some, requires a very different journey than what my journey was. So in my case, I have a whole self, I have all my child parts. So I have these panic attacks. I know from the spiritual perspective, my light body is expanding to a rainbow body. I have 3 twin flames. I have channels, downloads, conversations with archangels, angels, everything and beyond. I'm not being destabilized. There's no energy vampires. That's because my body, my nervous system, and my embodied brain, I have the capacity to hold this. So I build resilience because I've been consistently engaging, and in fact, since I was a kid, with my prefrontal. So the difference for those who can self-regulate, if they're looking to validate the charges, the effective realism, their biases, their stories, they won't be building resilience. Even though they might be doing the same exact mentorship, personal growth content, you name it, that I can present to you and that we will see all over online. I've seen them between coaches and consultants and the therapy, put all the personal help and people who care about people help. If they're doing it with their flow state, you're going to be able to notice it because they're going to consistently grow more curious. I wanted to give you the example of when someone's not in aliveness. So when you take courses, if you haven't, then excuse me for the technical verbiage, but I'll try to break it down. The lens of the attachment trauma education, Bethany Brown and Ruth Lanius. It's one of my trauma master courses, and they're describing to me what pseudo-aliveness looks like. And it's this. And I've seen that stare because I have a number of people. I call it the 3D 4D collective. These are spiritual bypassers and somatic bypassers. And some, in fact, will describe to you grief with the same look. The pseudo-aliveness is due to there not being a body that is anchored in and grounded in the ventral vagal state. But instead, it's still in a fight response and the brain is not integrated. So there's impaired integration. This is Dr. Daniel Siegel's hand model. So they're not building any good resilience. At best, they're building bad resilience, which means they're doing their body a disservice. Now, in the meantime, their left brain is consistently logically saying, I'm doing great, I'm doing all of it, da 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 da, and they're going to keep moving forward, because here's where my subjective opinion, with all the attachment trauma education that I've taken, but that I see online, the signs are clear. However, that's not right of me to speak because it's incorrect, since as Dr. Daniel Siegel, Bessel van der Kolk, Janine Fisher, Stephen Porges, anyone will explain how they will lack the self-awareness to notice this. And then, above all, there's this reaction to actually accepting the support, the help, the going. Patrick Tian, he's an awesome childhood trauma survivor, healed and healing, who says it the best. He says, you won't heal your childhood trauma going to Boca Raton. And he says, the hardest for those to go to therapy are the ones who weren't parented. So people who will refuse it, and that's what I've seen consistently throughout my years as I've ascended, expanded, began IHP with Be Yourself, the basics, moved into knowing about our nervous system. So today I say we're embodied self-leaders. So we build resilience by posing questions, but also being able to bilaterally, vertically, and overall hug ourselves. So during my panic attack, I'm reassuring myself, I'm going through the motions. No, it's not comfortable. It's completely uncomfortable. It's not irritating. I get irritated when I get anxious for no other reason except for my brain begins to travel at 3,000 degrees like before flight. I love flying, by the way, but the last time I began this, I was like, ah, and I got a little irritated. What does irritation do when we get irritated with ourselves? Disconnects you. You're not going to build resilience that way. You're just going to give yourself a pity party or pouty party. Not a pity party, but you're going to, I'm so irritated with myself. Nothing changes. You, in fact, did yourself a disservice. And so this is the part of where when you're whole, you have fun with your child parts, because you're in here and there's only one of you, by the way. I love when I remind myself to pause, and then when I'm hearing someone speak about what they think, the brain is like neuroscientists and neurobiological experts and all of that. The fact that they have fighting going on in their head makes me aware that they had different states of self, meaning either child parts, or there's the IFS model. Some will have fragments like actual parts for DID who heal. So they will have, or family in the head, Dr. Daniel Fox calls it family in the head. I don't have any fighting. I have one voice, it's mine, and it's of my child parts, and they will always be. My teacher Sue Martin explains it the best, because she says they're like icicles, so when they come up you feel that age. And it's true. My 3-year-old and my 16-year-old, they're the ones who come in the most. Even though my flight, my 11-12, she's come in too. So anyways, back to how to build resilience. So number one, you have self-regulation skills, which means you can anchor in ventral vagal state. At that point, you're building good resilience, which is awesome. Until the moment where your body is still in the nervous system. Where are you? Dr. Daniel Fox has a great video. No, he has a great series, actually, of videos where he's talking about, I don't know where my notes are. Okay. Well, it's not important, or not as important as I thought it would be. So he's explaining how you, through repetition, create stability, which is what we're also talking about right now. Because from uncertainty to steadiness, year after year, one, the panic attacks eventually stopped, and two, for panic attacks from the spiritual angle, they talk about our energy body expanding. From the physiological, and that means our nervous system, our emotional body expands. What I've noticed is that somatic and spiritual bypassers tend to use a story. So this where reprogramming your subconscious is not, the word feels abstract. When you think of the nervous system has 3 responses. If you're in your social engagement state while you're going through a panic attack, because you're able to hug yourself, ground yourself, breathe, do all those 5 senses, right? The 5 senses, focus your attention away. Peter Levine explains it the best. So you're containing sensations, images, affects, behaviors, and meanings, then I'm going to be okay. I'm actually going to be able to build good resilience. I'm going to notice in time it's going to get easier for me. If, on the other hand, and I've had people talk to me about their horrible experiences, I have one guy who came to me for Reiki, Akashic record readings, tarot guidance, and he had had a psychotic breakdown. They had to take him away with an ambulance. He represented a threat to himself, his now ex-wife, and his children. In the meantime, he's in front of me asking me for tools that, of course, guidance, support, and I'm attachment trauma informed, and I'm like, before we do anything, thank you so much for sharing such personal information and in depth, and I'm honored that you look for support, but we're going to want to sit down, and I have the attachment interview for categories, and then we're going to continue to talk about this. And that is me being responsible, because here's where, while the lovely therapists that I've learned from are always very open to all of us who do the personal help to be able to begin a journey with someone, I'm so aware of what it means that my timbre can trigger someone into a different state of, like a whole fragment or however it is with memory barriers. Like, I'm not the brain expert. I have a foundation of information, so I know what self-agency looks like. I can know that I'll be able to be aware when someone switches, like Dr. Daniel Siegel explained in my course, Dissociative Identity Disorder and Disorganized Attachment. Like when Bethany Brown and Ruth Lanius, also in another course with them, Dissociative Disorder, explained to me what it looks like to pseudo-live. And because we're nervous systems, when you're differentiating, which is easy for me, you'll be like, oh, that wasn't me. 2 minutes ago I was fine. Oh, wait, I'm in the presence. Okay. And you'll know what's going on once you hear the descriptions and you're there to help people. So being responsible to me is number one. Someone who is clearly in need of better help, Pat Ogden with sensory motor, Dr. Daniel Fox, he helps people with BPD and NPD. But my point is, before moving into how to build resilience, individuals, there's so many of them that need a strong foundation. Then once they can get here, so me laying down with my panic attacks, to close with that example. As I was laying there, who shows up? It was amazing. Mother Mary, Mother Magdalene, or Mary Magdalene, excuse me, and Mother Teresa. And I looked at Mother Teresa, and in my head, I was like, thanks for being here. I know of you, but, I don't pray to you. We don't have a big relationship, but, hey, thanks for being here, because, it's really shitty right now. I didn't say that. I didn't curse in the thoughts, but I was like, okay. And I got through the night. And here's where, when Therapy Nutshell Lady gives any kind of videos, I always appreciate it. And when I see someone being frustrated by it, this is a red flag. It's like, you still have a small window tolerance. Go get help. It'll be better once you get out. But if you do this, I don't know. Validating yourself isn't going to expand your window tolerance. So you just made the conscious choice of expressing the charge in the absence of hearing yourself. So you lack self-awareness. You're lacking the mindset practice of saying, okay, I have one of two options. And okay, how about this? Here's a compromise. I'll do a little bit of whining, and then I'll do a little bit of growing, because I'm still working on myself too. I just recognized in the recent weeks after the full moon, anyone who's a regular knows it. So the journal prompts, let's use that question. Where are you? What uncertainty am I currently facing that I am tempted to resolve prematurely? So this is one out of the 15 of them. And so, for example, let's say I would have wanted to set my mind on getting through these panic attacks sooner than later. That's really not something that will necessarily happen, number one. And that's not because I'm doing something wrong or because my body did something wrong. It's because integration is a process, so is self-regulation, and so is expanding your window of welcome. And so impatience, that doesn't help, right? So uncertainty and instability and anything that nudges us, it will only be something that can provide you with the opportunity to grow more steady within yourself. But as you understand, with our nervous system, it's like a car with an engine. But it's even better than that, because over the years it just gets easier and easier to be able and be uncomfortable, even though it's not great, but to have the capacity to understand it from the left brain, thanks to all the information, when you're working with uncertainty. So let's use another example. I'm anxious. I'm getting ready to, what happened in World War II? Is that a question? Or you're sharing about World War II? Because I don't. If you share more, I'll know what you're talking about. but I'll keep talking, and then you can expand on that. I'd love to. I might have to go soon. What time is it? I think I still have a little bit more time. Yes, that the war. Yes, I do know, but we're talking about resilience. Oh, are you talking about the nervous systems being affected by that? Maybe that's what you're talking about. Yeah, I know. War does affect. In one of my courses, we talked about that. How can we help people that are going through war with resilience in their nervous system, which is where it is sad. But luckily, our bodies are resilient, and so we can continue to work to get ourselves to a good space with our body, and for the world to not have wars continue. Some people think we have to continuously be divisive. I have a very different thought of that, and I don't think we need external forces in order for us to get along. But that's because I'm a person who isn't afraid of differences. And so here's where, when you do have the capacity to self-regulate and you are an embodied self-leader, you don't think because I have, so in my case, being a mystic, talk about also the scientific community, I can be considered one who's in between, not welcomed by all who want to make it into competition. So spirituality stories and sciences are explanations. To me, our ancestors did what they did at the time that they did. As for the wars, we will have learned from them, and we are continuing as a species to learn from them. In fact, those who actually continue to bring them forth, I'm going to say, they have this pull towards chaos and rigidity, which is indicative of dysregulated nervous systems. And in fact, they also use the past to think that that's what our future is going to be. I don't think our future will be less bright. Actually, I'm pretty sure humanity, as we always have, will evolve to be more loving and more conscious. So love doesn't mean that you are a pushover. Some people think love means you're soft, or that you don't understand what's going on. When I use love, I mean you're using the oxytocin gene hormone. So when you're building resilience, the nervous system regulation skills, you are in your mental clarity because you're using your prefrontal, as you're able to know when you're activated. Instead of becoming reactive, you will notice how, sitting with your uncertainty, so sitting with my panic attacks, I can become aware of my body. Then, because I can activate my safety within me, recognize with my prefrontal there's no physical danger. Take the tips from, for example, Nutshell Therapy Lady, which break the story, let's stop talking, let's allow ourselves to know it's a mechanism, it will pass. So as you sit with awareness, and you sit from a place where you consistently are just breathing, not thinking, it will pass. And then when it happens again, you do the same. Hi, and you increase the capacity for presence, because you're increasing the capacity to stay anchored in an integrated brain. From alert, you bring it down. Tara Brach has a really good video on that, from mindfulness, and how you go from the big waves to being able to be at ease. So self-regulating in ventral vagal state, having a steady self, that obviously is part of the equation. Being able to, in a moment of uncertainty or activation for other reasons, sit with the emotion, find a healthy way, compromise. Let's say I want to really get out all that emotion, complain about it. I'll allow myself to do that with a healthy, emotionally speaking person, and or maybe poetry, maybe acting. And then I will also do the mindset practices to evaluate, okay, so what did I learn? What came up from all of this? And what is it that I really would want that isn't showing up? And so in my case, like the panic attacks, it's really just about my health is here. I go and take blood work. I continuously eat well. I sleep good. You put into practice all the aspects that mean taking care of yourself. For people who don't have the opportunity, we hope, as we build a future together, humanity, to see what we can do to make it happen. So that's something that is sad when I think of war. But in the meantime, steadiness. It is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the capacity to remain present with what is unfolding without collapsing, controlling, or disconnecting. And so the practices, the mindset ones, and the journal prompts, for those of us who know how to build resilience the good way, we strengthen our ability because our ventral vagal state provides us with eustress. And then as you continuously understand from the left brain that you're an embodied brain, not an object, but that you work a certain way, and that your nervous system protects you, your brain protects you. None of what is our embodied brain is bad. Obviously, the talking, that's when someone says your story is wrong. I get that. The story follows the feeling, though, and the feeling are with sensations. And sensations come also from the 0-1-year-old, which are implicit memory, and the 0 to 3, 3 to 7. Well, 0 to 3 are implicit memory, then we begin to build explicit memory. And so this is the part of where if someone doesn't have enough of the information of the embodied brain, they don't have that attachment trauma lens, they will be ignorant of the subject matters. But when you inform someone, which I do consistently whenever I'm chit-chatting with loved ones, with strangers, when I come here, I add all these pieces of information, because just saying, here, I'm going to tell you how to use the inner growth mindset to build resilience. Put this question, put this on paper, and do it over and over again. That's ignoring the complete foundation of you. So like a car, you have a motor, and if your body is not actually able to anchor in its own aliveness, then you're not going to be doing good resilience. Because pseudo-aliveness, someone looking like this with grief, makes me think, no, I don't have grief like that. I don't say, oh, I need to grieve in order to deepen the experience that I have of life. I think I could have avoided all that if we only had more emotion mature leadership, love-based. I'm going to go too soon. Thank you for stopping by, and thanks for subscribing. So nice. Thank you. But you build resilience with anchored in ventral vagal state, and then with that, an integrated brain, emotional intelligence. It's really sexy for sure, and it's definitely invigorating. And so as you move forward, the expansion of you with regulation, with the capacity to know that there's a process to integration, you as a person can be your own safe haven, secure base whenever something's going down, and we always hope there's no physical threat. For physical threats, we have, For physical threats, our body does what it needs to do. In the meantime, we have a number of people who are using a body that is dysregulated purely because they don't take the good therapy community seriously. And when you present to them the information, they say, I found it hard to believe that my first year's life. And that is a person who doesn't think that their implicit memory has anything to do with their bad habits, the maladaptive habits, which you can find adaptive strategies for. The self, when it's not stable, it enmeshes. And so individuals who ignore their pseudo-aliveness, there's spiritual bypassers, I see them as they channel, they download, they keep on being overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed because not only as a species we pick up on all of each other's nervous systems, as Tara Brock presented in one of the summits that I was attending. And I was like, yeah, I remember that. I remember being opened up to my oversoul, the entire planet, from the mystic spiritual aspect. Then I understood it from the sciences. We're all mammals, and we pick up on each other's nervous system. And during periods of high crises, all of our brothers and sisters are going to be freaking out. So it's thanks to the entire therapeutic community who heals people and helps them to learn self-regulation. And then once they're ready, they build resilience. And then thanks to those of us who maintain regulation, because we can, right here, we support each other and we create, Dr. Daniel Siegel's word, a more integrated world. So as we move forward, the species, the human species, I don't judge it. We all will be born with ignorance from our past. We all can also learn how a story can be taken, appreciated, respected, but when science is showing with all of its might, with all of its research, with all of its data, that health is for anyone in their hands. I mean, now I'm going off on a tangent, but it's just sad to see people refusing it, rejecting it, and not noticing that's the number one first red flag is, wow, you just said no to meeting yourself. So I won't ever get to know you, but I'll get to meet your fake friend, your fake you, and the performer, which, I mean, hey, I have plenty of performer friends. They're all clowns. But what I know is they're not going to be building good resilience. And so underneath that hood of the car, I have an engine that's going in overdrive. That makes me sad. And then when I look out in the world, I know why we have crises and chaos and rigidity, and it's not because of some puppet master or demonic forces. It's because of people who are still actively in a push-pull dynamic, because from 1 to all 8 billion fractals, and so we all have the same embodied brain. We all, though, have different stories of where we begin. And so when you take self-regulation, responsibility seriously, You are able to grow emotionally intelligent because you're anchored in ventral vagal state. Journal prompts and mindset practices are something you appreciate because you integrate them in your day-to-day. And if, let's say, you have panic attacks, you end up getting through them. You also don't think that what you went through is some big deal because, like someone mentioned, the war is a big deal. That's a sad thing. So we can build resilience in a good way for all of us, and we will be also building a good future for humanity, since with emotional intelligence comes mental clarity. And so mindset, it is really amazing when you have people who not only are epistemically curious, they're disciplined, they're diligent, they continue to learn from all the corners of that which are expertise. And again, thanks for stopping by. You can check out PayHip for the journal prompts and mindset practices for those of you who are actively anchored in your ventral vagal state. You enjoy getting to know yourself better, and you enjoy building that resilience, and also you enjoy coming together with a community of those who are embodied self-leaders. Check out Substack for that, since we have a little chat area as well. And I will be back with more live. So thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.